Hello again. Internationals week, where everyone sticks their national teams all over the front pages, and the Catalans have Argentina. And what a week it's been, eh? Spain held, Germany held, Poland held. Basically a round that was a bit like the Cubist movement. People drawing all over the continent and everything ending all square. What, though, did the papers say about it? Well, let's start with the biggest story of all. Germany-Sweden from 4-0 to 4-4 in the space of under 20 minutes. Newcastle-Arsenal, basically, but with better knitwear. Here is Swedish paper Aftonbladet. Jawohl, they say. 17 minutes of Swedish football miracle. They call it the most improbable Swedish performance they've ever seen. In Expressen, Sweden's footballers deserve the Nobel Prize in everything, says the paper. Can anyone who saw the miracle in Berlin now seriously claim that God doesn't exist? DN agree. Here we have Bragden in Berlin, coup in Berlin, from being outplayed, outclassed, laughable bystanders to shocking heroes. It's the biggest upset in footballing history, says the paper, and they all agree on one thing. The turning point was this fellow here, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who at half-time, with his team trailing badly, stepped up in the locker room and delivered what the papers call an inflammatory speech. We've got to play this damn game so we can go home with some dignity, said the 6'5" man in a ponytail. And it worked. And Expressen says, danke, 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 danke. Well, if the Swedish are saying danke for the Germans, the headlines were, well, bitter. A total blamage, indeed, as the Hamburger Morgen Post says, from 4-0 to 4-4. The next day, they're asking, are these people heroes or idiots? Observing that for the first hour at least, this German side had been producing one of their best performances ever, which only makes the final result, of course, all the worse. What was the turning point? Well, according to Bild, it was this fellow here, the coach, Yogi Love, who was guilty of a Yogi boo-boo, if you will, failing to react to the collapse in front of him. Why, asked Bild, is he's so helpless. Beyond that, though, the paper are also wondering why teams no longer tremble in front of the national Mannschaft. Is it the latest signs, they say, of the psychological crack that we saw in Germany's performance not only at the Euros, but also in Bayern Munich's form at the end of last season? Well, a little bit of Gotterdammerung going on there then, or whatever that is in German. Well done, Sweden. And in other Schadenfreude news, Portugal, another disaster for them. Beaten by Russia last Friday, the Lusitanians this Tuesday then celebrating Ronaldo's 100th cap by very nearly losing at home to Northern Ireland. 1-1 the final score, and unlike his Ronness, that didn't go down well. Bowler Ronaldo didn't turn up. Star bad in his centenary game, says manager Paulo Bento. Some of us still think we're Brazil. Are the reactions record? Get your calculators out. Qualifying now depends on others. Correio da Manhã, woman gets her breasts out. And O Jogo, Irlanda Desnorte. Clever, this one. Desnorte being confusion instead of Donorte, which means northern. O Jogo's subs really stepping their game up of late. Anyway, the paper's making Ronaldo very much the symbol of a performance deemed unworthy of the jersey. Ouch. And they quote Pepe saying, we have some things now to sort out in the dressing room. Wow, I wonder if they gave Ron the hairdryer treatment and tore a strip off him. Not that he wouldn't be used to that, of course. Well, meantime, anyway, on to another shock result this week. Spain-France. Didier Deschamps' France, who'd just been beaten last Friday by Japan, but now held the world champions to a 1-1 draw. That's the first time Spain haven't won a qualifying match in 5 years. Well, the French press, as you can imagine, au-dessous de la lune with this one. Let's have a look. One or two headlines. Le Dauphiné, a draw that smells of victory. Le Dépêche du Midi, Blues are heroic through and through. Aujourd'hui, that's the way we love you. And look, here's L'Équipe with Youssef. Tremendously enjoyable. We were magnifique in the second half, says the paper, and it's probably Les Bleus' best performance since 2006. Above all, they say, it is a performance that bears the hallmarks of the man they call Double D. Didier Deschamps, Double D, who's taken a team formerly famous for its bust-ups and having made a clean breast of it, well, his cup down runneth over. At the very least, says L'Équipe, we now have a team for the rest of the qualifiers. Spain, meanwhile, have one or two problems. Here's Marca. It's a backfire, they say. AS, meanwhile, call it a total collapse, and they say, to be sure of qualifying, we now have to win in Paris. Who's to blame? Well, naturally, it's the manager again, Vicente del Bosque, who the Spanish are targeting for his decision to move Busquets out of midfield and his Tolkien-esque use of two Torres. That's Am I Bothered Fernando Torres and Juan-Fran Torres, whose momentous error in the 95th minute of the game gifted Olivier Giroud the ball for France's equaliser. Still, says As, we probably deserved to only draw this match, both for the way our fans whistled the Marseillaise before kick-off to the way our players spent the second half at the mercy of the French in a state of panic. Well, Spain's reign contained then by the French. And speaking of rain, let's finish off with Poland. Not so much the 1-1 draw on Wednesday with England, but of course the scandal of the swimming pool Narodowy, as Warsaw papers called it on Tuesday. Here we go. Here's a Polish paper Fact. That's the one London cabbies are always telling me to get. They say, scandal, it's not been a good year for Polish football. Well, I'll say. Gazeta, meanwhile, also from Poland, have a top shot there of one of the fans on Tuesday aquaplaning along. And they're talking here of the real scandal of Narodowy. The brave footballing fellows whose antics during the delay on Tuesday at the National Stadium kept the nation entertained, but who they reveal could now be facing up to 3 years in jail. Wow, that's a bit harsh. Still, could be worse. Could still be presenting daybreak, eh? And on that note, let us now bring our look at the papers to a close for another week. We'll be back next Friday, probably with some Champions League reaction, so do make sure you join us then.